Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. My guest today is Adiel Gorel, one of the leading experts on real estate and real estate investment in the United States and around the world. He's the founder and CEO of International Capital Group Real Estate Investments, a renowned real estate investment firm founded in the San Francisco Bay Area. Since 1987, Adiel has continued teaching tens of thousands of investors how to secure a strong financial future for themselves and their families, whether for college, legacy wealth growth, or retirement. He's the author of 5 books, and as an experienced speaker, he has lectured or conducted seminars all over the world, including at Stanford, Cisco, Meta, Intel, Microsoft, Berkeley, Amazon, and many others. Adiel even has his own public television real estate show, which is still airing in its 6th year. His dynamic and entertaining onstage presence led him to be featured on TEDx in 2023, and his talk has been viewed more than 1 million times. Can't wait to hear more, so welcome, Adiel, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Thank you, Claudia. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really looking forward to learning more about your work. So, Adiel, before we get started, can you please share just a little bit of your personal backstory? What led you into the world of real estate investing?
Yes, and my background is actually very different than that. I was never trained in it. I'm actually an electrical engineer, and computer scientist. I used to live right in the heart of Silicon Valley. I did my graduate studies at the university there, and then I taught at the university, again, science and engineering. And then finally, I got my first Silicon Valley job. So back then, that was in the 1980s. Yes, I started when I was 1 year old. No, in the 1980s, back then, we didn't have, Amazon or Google or Meta. They did not exist. Yeah. But the company that I was really looking to work for was Hewlett-Packard Labs. That was the place that I really wanted to work for. And they're located very close to the university. So I was living between the labs and the school and could bike both ways and do research in both places still. So 2 things happened when I got that first job at Hewlett-Packard Labs. Number one, they paid me a lot more than Stanford did when I taught there. So, it's like today when a young person out of school gets a job at Google, they say, oh my God, this is a great salary. That was the kind of thing. So I was a very young person. I felt I was getting paid incredibly well. And in my research lab at HP, there were a few people that were older in their 50s and 60s. So I was assuming very naturally, if they had been working here for 30 years plus and getting paid so well, they must be very wealthy. Mm-hmm. Once I got to know my colleagues socially, I discovered that was not the case. They were not wealthy. I mean, they owned their own home and a retirement account, but they were just relatively comfortable and not wealthy. So as a young person, I told myself, look, I'm not going to work here for decades only to look like this financially. I need to clearly build something on my own to bolster my future. So yes, I get a good salary. Yes, I can get good loans because of my job, but I need to build something by myself. So I grew up in a family of real estate developers. And as a child, I didn't really care what my family did. I just wanted to play. But I still was exposed to the power and the conversation of my family. So I said, okay, I know what I need to do to build a strong future for me. I'll use my salary, I'll use the ability to get very good loans, and I'll buy rental homes and build an empire. And the empire will make me strong and secure when I'm in my 40s or 50s or even 60s. Now, back then in the 1980s, there was an unwritten rule: only buy rental homes within 30 minutes drive of where you live. And everybody was doing it. So I was doing it too. I was conforming to the rule. And so I was living in Palo Alto, California, which is right next to Stanford. And I was buying in Silicon Valley, right around me, in places called Sunnyvale and San Jose. But after a few properties that I bought, I realized I couldn't build an empire in Silicon Valley, because even in the 1980s, although the numbers were much lower than they are now, the ratios between rent and price were similar and the rents were too low. I could not build an empire with the rents, being so low. So I realized I have to break the 30-minute drive rule and go somewhere where it makes sense. So I had to do a little research. Now, in the 1980s, we didn't have the web. What do you know? No web. And Sergey Brin and Larry Page, I believe, were in kindergarten. So that didn't help a lot. But I still was in my research lab at Stanford as well. And there they had the ARPANET, which is the precursor to the internet. Not very convenient, but I could do a little research. So my research showed that if I flew about an hour and a half from San Francisco to a smaller city by the name Las Vegas, I could buy homes that cost 1/4 of the Silicon Valley home price that I was buying. Wow. But the rents, amazingly, were more like 1/2 of the rents in Silicon Valley. Obviously, that was infinitely better. So I started flying to Vegas every weekend. Now, I always looked younger than my age. Back then, I looked like a boy. The people in Vegas were very skeptical. Nobody was buying far from home. Nobody was buying out of state. And here comes this crazy boy wanting to buy homes. They were sure I was just going to waste their time and treated me with great skepticism. So I spent the first couple of months doing what I knew I had to do. I was living in California. If I was going to buy in Las Vegas, Nevada, I needed to have a property management firm in Las Vegas to take care of the homes that I was going to buy as rentals. So I started interviewing property management companies. And after a couple of months, I found a company that I liked. Well, I still was very nervous because I didn't have a chance to really test them in the field. And then a broker took pity on me and said, okay, I'll find you homes. And I started buying. So I was always very aggressive. And in my first year, I bought 22 homes. Now, before you or your viewers get impressed by that number, and also if you promise not to laugh, I will tell you that back then, in the mid-1980s, the average home I bought in Las Vegas cost $39,000 for the whole house.
Whoa!
Not only that, but back then, the entity in the United States that regulates loans, not all loans, but many of the good loans, called Fannie Mae, it's just a name, didn't have a limit on the number of loans that an individual could have. There was no limit. And also, even as an investor, I could put as little as 10% down payment, which I did because I wanted to stretch my money and I wanted to buy as many homes as I could. So now that you see that I was buying homes for $39,000 and putting only 10% down payment plus the closing costs, it's doable for somebody who makes a very good salary in Silicon Valley. It was doable. But still, I had never met a person who owned 22 plus homes, because I still owned a few in Silicon Valley. So, but this was all just for me, for my future. However, during that first year, many of my Silicon Valley friends were making terrible fun of me. They were putting me down. What are you doing? Who is buying out of state? You're insane. Nobody does this. You're crazy. But after a year, when they saw me with my 20 plus homes, the logic of the engineers started working. We are logical people. And they said, you know what? We understand what you're doing. In fact, we want to do it too. I said, you should, please do it. It will change your future. Do it. They said, come on. You work in Silicon Valley too. You know how busy we are. We barely have time to go to the bathroom. You're already there with your managers and your realtors and your homes. How about you lead us? Well, I never thought about that, but I said, sure, I'll lead you. So I led a group of about 20 engineers from Silicon Valley, and over a period of about 3.5 years, we bought roughly 250 homes in Las Vegas. We didn't buy them as a group. She bought 6 homes for herself. He bought 4 homes for himself. I bought a few more for me. But I made a very trivial discovery. The property management firm who was taking care of our home really cared about us because they got so much business, 250 homes. So even when a very cautious engineer bought just one little home as a test, they treated him as if he had 250 homes, because they knew if he wasn't happy with them, he would complain to me. And now I'm not happy, and every other company in Vegas is calling me all the time. Come to us. We are better, we are cheaper, we are nicer, we are taller, we are prettier. Who doesn't want to manage 250 homes, plus the many dozens more we may still buy in the future? I started enjoying this a great deal. Not only was I building up my own future, but I was helping many friends build their future and change it. And it was much more fun than my high-tech life. So soon, because what I was doing was so unusual, I started getting invited to speak about it. And I discovered I really love to speak about what I'm passionate about. And in one of the conversations in San Francisco, unbeknownst to me, there was a reporter for the San Francisco paper. Well, in the Sunday paper, there was a big article about this. And then I was invited to speak on the NBC network, on the morning news. And I said, you know what, this is just too much fun. I quit my high-tech life, even though I had invested so much in it. And I formed our company, I think it was around 1987. And in the nearly 40 years that passed, my investors bought more than 10,000 homes in about 30 markets in the United States. People gave word, in Silicon Valley, many of the people are from other countries. So word got around, and all of a sudden I was getting people from Japan, from China, from France, from Germany. I mean, from all over the world, because if you can live in the San Francisco Bay Area, buy in Las Vegas, and have a property manager handle it, why can't you live in Paris? It's really not very much different. So, I mean, many of our investors, out of the 10,000 homes, I would say easily 2,500 were bought by foreigners, outside of the United States. And now I need to add one layer to this conversation. One of the things that blew my mind when I started is I discovered something that sounded quite impossible. When I was buying my first home, I got a loan where they called it a 30-year fixed rate loan. And I said, I don't understand. That's not possible. In the United States, there's always inflation. There are many reasons for that. I'm not going to go into them. There's always inflation. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, but it's always there. So 40 years ago from now, you bought a postage stamp for 4 cents. Today, it's 72 cents. 40 years ago, you went to the movies in San Francisco for $2. Today, it's $15. If you go to a beautiful supermarket for good food right now, and you buy a beautiful organic avocado, it's going to cost $3. Everybody knows. I know. Everybody knows. In 10 years, that avocado is probably going to cost $5 or $6. Everybody knows that. In this environment, where the prices of everything goes up all the time because of inflation, and you need more and more dollars to buy the same goods, somebody completely crazy is giving you a loan where the monthly payment on the loan will never, ever change with inflation. It will always be the same. Not only that, but how much you owe on the loan, your loan balance, even though it goes down every month a little bit as you pay down the loan, also doesn't keep up with inflation. So in the US economy, the price of the tomato, the avocado, the shoes, the houses, the rents, the glasses goes up all the time. But your loan remains the same all the time, forever. Unbelievable. That means inflation becomes your very best friend. It basically, erodes the true value of your loan day after day, month after month, year after year, building your wealth as the years go by. And since I've been doing it for 40 years, I have seen the sweet spot is between 12 and 14 years. Even though they call the loan 30 years fixed, between 12 and 14 years, you look at your loan, and even though you started with a high loan because you put a low down payment, 12 to 14 years, your loan is maybe 1/4 of the value of the home. You have a lot of equity, you have a lot of wealth, and depending on how many homes you bought, you could be wealthy, you could be strong. And one sentence that everybody says to me, everyone, after 12 is the following sentence: I should have bought more. It doesn't matter. People call me, oh my God, I did so well. I bought 27 homes. Look at me. I should have bought more. And I've been leading by example. I bought still more than all of my investors. I still say I should have bought more. So here is a very typical story to show what it looks like. I get a call from one of my investors, and I have thousands of them. He says, remember me? I'm an engineer in Silicon Valley. By the way, you don't have to be an engineer in Silicon Valley to do it. I've worked with people because I like to buy affordable yet very good brand new homes. I've worked with teachers, nurses, truck drivers, not just Silicon Valley people. But since I come from Silicon Valley, a lot of high-tech people are drawn to me. So he says, remember me? I used to work in Silicon Valley. I started buying with you in my early 40s. I was very cautious because I was super busy in my job. And so I bought just one home to see that the property managers really do all the heavy lifting of taking care of everything, because I had no time to deal with anything. So my one home rented, became stable, boring even. So then I bought another one. He says, I listened to what you said about the 30-year fixed rate loan. So I wanted to get big loans and also to spread my money to buy more homes. So I put the smallest down payments I could, and I ended up buying 19 homes. Again, not as impressive as it may sound. At the time he was buying these homes in his early 40s, he was buying brand new homes, which we like to buy, brand new, for about $150,000 each, and putting a small down payment, very doable for a guy with a high salary. So he says, last year I turned 55. I looked at my 19 homes and I saw that in 13 years, even though I started out with a big loan because I put a small down payment, my loans were all roughly 1/4 of the value of the home. So I was super excited because that meant millions of dollars in equity over 19 homes. That was great. But then I took it one step further. He says, I sold 4 of the homes. I didn't do anything sophisticated or fancy like an exchange. No, I just sold them and paid my tax. And I used the proceeds from the 4 sales to pay off the remaining 15 small loans. And with 15 homes without a mortgage, I retired from my Silicon Valley job at 55. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then he says, I should have bought more. That's what it looks like. There is a miracle happening in the United States. They give you a crazy loan called 30 years fixed. And the name is misleading because you don't have to wait for 30 years. I wish they called it by another name like Johnny or Mary or Kevin, but they call it 30 years fixed. But usually it will absolutely change your future, usually between 12 to 14 years. It's not get rich quick, but while this is happening, your involvement is fairly minimal because I like to buy brand new homes in large metropolitan areas for job diversification, in the suburbs where there are families with kids. The kids go to school. It's like a root in the ground. And then the local property managers take care of everything. And because my investors bought more than 10,000 homes, now we have markets where we bought 2,000 homes. We even have one market where we bought more than 3,000 homes. So obviously, the property managers really care about us. So if we have one investor who lives in France and he bought just one little home, he enjoyed the power, the clout, as if he bought 1,000 homes or 2,000 homes. And I try to keep it very simple. I noticed logical people like engineers love to complicate everything. Everything is an Excel spreadsheet. Do I need to go to the bathroom? Let's look at the Excel. Yeah, I need to go. Okay. Everything love to complicate. I try to simplify. So I've been striving to simplify this thing, and people from all over the world can get into this insanity called buying a brand new good home that's affordable with a loan that'll be the only thing in the US economy never to move with inflation, which is absolutely insane.
This is crazy. And thank you so much for sharing. I mean, this sounds super, super amazing. And I don't understand, if it's such a game changer, why do you think that most people don't take full advantage of it?
Okay, so that's exactly what I get sometimes when I speak in Europe. When I tell people about the loan, the 30-year fixed rate loan, they say, it's not possible. What you're saying is not possible. And they give me the inflation. It's not, who is going to give you? And once when I say, okay, how about you look on your phone, you do a search, and they say, oh my God, they really have those loans. The next question I get is always, if the Americans can get these loans, why don't they all run and get them? And I said, I don't know. I sure did. And in fact, one question that I get a lot is, look, you've been doing it for 40 years. Actually, this is year 41 since I started. We incorporated, I think, in 1987, but I started in 1984. So people say, you've been doing it for 40 years. You bought so many homes. Why are you on this podcast? Why aren't you on a yacht in the Caribbean? Why aren't you retired? Well, the answer is, I was shocked and still am very shocked that in the United States, hardly anyone realizes what they have, how great a gift it is. They were born into it. They think it's normal. Nobody thinks that it makes any sense. I literally could talk to a brilliant vice president at Google and he goes, 30-year fixed, what's the... Never thought about it. The only American who fully sees it before I explain, obviously, once I explain, you can see, the only American who saw it before I explained is Warren Buffett, with whom I was in touch in 2012. He wanted to buy a very large number of homes for his company, Berkshire Hathaway, and he gets it. In fact, from time to time, there's an article where he praises the 30-year fixed rate loan. And in fact, in Entrepreneur magazine, there's an article about me and him talking about the 30-year fixed rate loan, which I'd be happy to share with your.
Sure.
And I'll be happy to share a link to, the TED talk the TEDx talk that I did a couple of years ago about this. It's only 11 and a half minutes. And magazine articles I wrote about it, I can share it all with your viewers and listeners. But Warren Buffett is the only American I was in touch with who gets it. Nobody else does. So literally, this is so life-changing. I don't feel like I want to retire. I feel like I have a mission. I wrote 5 books about it already, and I'm still not recovered from the news that they give you a loan that doesn't keep up. How could it be? So I'm very passionate about it. I have a message. And luckily, having done it for 40 years, the results are in. So thousands of people retired or became very wealthy or sent their kids to the best schools in the world and didn't even feel the cost or whatever it is they wanted to do. And not everybody bought 19 or 20 or 70. I have people who bought more than 100 homes. I certainly did. Even people who bought just 1 or 2. They say, what a difference it's making in our lives right now. And of course, I wish I'd bought more, but even 1 home can make a difference. So I feel like I'm really enjoying this. I have a message that must be heard, and it's changing people's futures. Why should I retire at this point?
No reason at all.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's something that most people maybe completely misunderstand about real estate investing that is holding them back?
Absolutely. And in fact, I allude to it in my TEDx talk. When you tell somebody, now you're going to buy a rental home, immediately they say, oh my God, I'm going to be fixing toilets. I don't want to fix toilets. Well, again, a few years into the game, a long time ago, I said, we're going to buy brand new homes that come with warranties and everything. And then the property managers locally must take care of everything. See, you are in Germany. Mm-hmm. I've been to Germany many times. I love being in Germany. And one thing I noticed is the education system is such that virtually every German that I met speaks great English. So that's not an issue. But I actually have investors from countries, and those investors barely speak English. And they still own homes in the United States because the managers take care of everything. Yes? So that's what I say. I think on my TEDx talk, I say this. If I were managing my own homes, I wouldn't be on this podcast with you right now. I'd be probably fixing a toilet at this very moment,
Yeah.
Because I own so many. But I refuse to give up the quality of my life. I completely refuse. I don't fix toilets. I don't deal with anything. At the end of the year, all the numbers from the rents and the expenses go to the company that does my taxes. They do my taxes. And there's very little time that I spend on it. And I'm not willing to sacrifice the quality of my life. When my kids were small, I wanted to play with my kids. Today, I want to have fun. I want to be on your podcast. I want to travel. I play music. So because I didn't retire, I needed to find a balance in my life. So I make music in my home studio, which is deep in there. Actually, you can find my music on all the platforms. Just put my name. You'll find it all. I even have a health and wellness podcast, which you can also find on all the platforms. And then I dedicate more than half my time to meeting one-on-one with people. So I will meet one-on-one with you, with your viewer, because I feel when I have a one-on-one meeting, I may be changing the life of an entire family. That's too good to pay. It's not like I suffer with those meetings. Most of the meetings I hold in my backyard, looking at the water of the San Francisco Bay in the sun. Not exactly a lot of suffering. Talking about something that I love. So, I'll be happy to talk to you people. I'll be happy to share the materials. I'm very passionate about this. And it's a life-changing method, not fast, slow and steady, and really you don't need to sacrifice.
Slow and steady wins the race, right?
Exactly.
Speaking about this, Warren Buffett famously said that his favorite holding period in general in investing is forever. Does the same logic apply to real estate investing, or do you believe that there is a right time to cash out?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for that. So, number one, it can divide into several paths. One path I described in the example from my investor who said that after 13 years, he sold 4, but he kept the others. Another is keeping forever, which is really a lot of what I'm doing with many of my homes. I have no intention to sell, no intention whatsoever. So yeah, you can keep your homes. Of course, the loans will disappear. And now you have all these homes with no loans. Yes, of course, you have insurance and repairs and vacancies, but with no loans, every home on a net basis gives you a lot of money. And the money that the home gives you is inflation proof. In other words, rents do keep up with inflation. You know those homes I bought in Vegas in the middle of the 1980s? The initial rents were close to $330 a month back then. I still own some of those homes. The rent is close to $2,000. Obviously, the rents keep up with inflation. So, I mean, that's an inflation-proof lifestyle, not to mention the net worth, the wealth that comes from all those homes. I just read an article this morning. It says, what puts you in the top 10% of wealth in the United States? And it says, you need $3 million in net worth. Well, many of my investors have more than 5 or 10 or 20 times that much because, so, I mean, the wealth that comes with it. So you can keep them forever and ever, like Warren Buffett says. You can sell. Also, in the United States, we have something called the tax-deferred exchange. So sometimes people say, okay, I have a home, very small loan, a lot of equity. I'm going to sell it, and I'll do a tax-deferred exchange into 5 brand new homes. So that means making your portfolio bigger. Or I had an investor once who said, you know what? Starting at age 60, he owned dozens of homes. Right? Starting at age 60, I'm selling a home every year. Paying the tax. And that year will be beefed up by the money from that one sale. Next year, I sell another one. There are many ways to skin the cat. There are many ways to go, about it. I personally am more on the Warren Buffett line. I don't like to sell. So what happens one day when I get to a place where maybe I want to leave this world? Well, it goes to my children. And something strange in the United States, there's also another tax benefits on how it goes to my children. I won't go into the details, but yeah, your children will continue. So, I mean, you can sell, you can not sell. I had a person whose son was accepted into Stanford, and he was too well paid to get any financial help from Stanford. So 4 years at Stanford, including everything, could easily be $350,000, including everything. He just sold one of his homes. He said, I didn't even feel it.
Wow. Now, if you were to start from scratch today with no capital, but all of your knowledge, how would you go about building $1 million real estate portfolio in 2025? Okay.
So, I mean, realizing that we are talking about the dominant feature in the United States, and you can enjoy it as a foreigner too. Foreigner means German, British, whatever. They give you a crazy loan that never changes with inflation. So you want to capitalize on that. So when you buy a property, buy a brand new property and put the minimal down payment that you can. Now, when you live in another country, not the United States, typically you need to put 30% as a down payment. Now, the prices of brand new homes that we are not buying in New York or San Francisco, or Los Angeles. We are buying in large metropolitan areas that are thriving in the middle of the United States. So we are buying brand new homes, starting from the low $200,000, and the most expensive are in the mid $300,000. So you can, without much problem, buy a good new home in a good area that costs maybe $240,000. Now, as a foreigner, you need to put 30% down. That would be $72,000. But there's also closing costs. So let's call it, $80,000. So I would start gathering up the $80,000, either by saving or by doing something else, working with a family member, finding a partner, and then buy my first home. How do you do it? You're in Germany. What the hell are you? Okay, get in touch with me. I'll completely guide you. I've done it thousands of times. We'll guide you, put you through the process, make it simple. And I recommend, by the way, always starting with one home. Sometimes I get calls from hotshot Silicon Valley people saying, I just sold the company and I want to buy 100 homes. I said, how about you buy one? One. Because, all the fear, you're buying overseas, you're buying far from home. Am I going to fix toilets? Buy one home. Let it close. Let the local manager rent it out. And of course, the managers really care about us. Even if somebody bought just one home, if they say something to me, the managers don't like to get an email from me. What about Claudia's home? Oh my God, yes, no, we're going to look at it. So you get the power of 1,000 homes or 2,000 homes. And buy one home, let it rent, let it be stable, let it be boring. Buying home number 2 will be a mere repetition of the same process. Much easier and psychologically much easier to do. Buying home number 4, boring already. It's the same all the time. So I would say start gathering that down payment so you can get going.
That makes sense. I mean, you have built a thriving business, but so many entrepreneurs out there, they are struggling with scaling in general. So what are your best tips for scaling without sacrificing your health, relationships, or happiness?
That is a very good question. Really, really good question. In my case, the scaling happens because as the years go by and I work with brokers and managers in a city, I get to know them better and I trust them more and more. Of course, after I bought 1,000 homes with them, I really trust them. So my scaling is Claudia is talking to me and she wants to buy a house. I refer Claudia to the brokers and the managers in that market that we discussed. I talk to Claudia, and then I offload Claudia to them. They work with her. They show her properties. I love it if Claudia wants to visit and see what she's buying. I love when that happens. But after COVID, surprisingly, a lot of people don't fly as much. But my involvement and my staff is only if Claudia has questions, issues, we can talk again. And again, I don't limit, I don't charge actually. And so that's how I scale. I have all those teams in all those markets, and they work hand in hand with you, finding you the home, managing the homes. I'm always there, my staff, to support you. But this is how I can scale. When you scale in another business, I guess every business will have its own specifics. But I agree with you, you need to find a path to scale without sacrificing the quality of your life.
Yeah, you somehow have to replace yourself in your business.
Right.
Now, I know that in the next 12 to 24 months, you want to help another 10,000 people to secure their financial future. So what is your strategy for achieving this goal? And what's your grand vision beyond that?
Well, that's a very aggressive goal that you laid out for me.
I know.
But all I do is right now it's much easier for me because so many people call me and say, oh, my friend retired thanks to you. How can I start? Or my dentist told me I should call you. So we get calls from all over the world, really, not solicited at all, but getting some exposure. For example, being on your podcast. I mean, that's a way to let people know what's available. I recommend that people get one of my books on, Amazon, let's say. Probably the book that was written after the TV show that I was invited to do with the same name, Remote Control Retirement Riches. Remote Control Retirement Riches is my book. And like I said, I have magazine articles I wrote covering all this, the TED Talk, the TV show. I'll be happy to share it with anybody. Just give me an email and I'll send all those links. And just make it known that people can do it. And once again, this is one way of doing it passively. You don't have to quit your job. In fact, your job is important, so you can get these great loans. You can do whatever you're doing in the background. This grows and your wealth grows.
I love it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Well, Nike has been criticized in many ways. And I think there is room for criticism, but they got one thing right.
Just do
they
it.
Say, just do it.
I know. Oh my God. That's so spot on. So last but not least, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to learn more about you or connect with you?
Okay, so the TEDx talk, which is only 11 and a half minutes, just go to YouTube and look for my name, Adiel Gorel, with the word TEDx. You'll find it right away. And then to find us, our website is called ICG RE. RE is real estate. So, ICGRE.com. And you'll find us. You can set up an appointment with me. You can join our quick list. For nearly 40 years, we have an event every quarter. Used to be live. Now it's by Zoom, so people from many countries can join. Our last event was on March 1st. The next event is on May the 17th of 2025. You can register for free on our website, icgre.com, under events, of course. And we bring the market teams. They talk about their market. They show us their PowerPoint. They show properties. I take many questions. I bring experts. Very good days. Join us for the next event. I'll be happy to talk to you again. Find us at icgre.com. And you'll see you can set up a time to talk to me, and I'll happily do that.
Sounds wonderful. So, Adiel, thank you so much for sharing all those tips and insights with us today. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you very much, Claudia. It's been a pleasure.
Keep up the great work. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.